Hello everybody, and thank you for coming. It's a real pleasure to have you here and being able to talk to you. So I'm just gonna go through what we see on daily basis, what our inspectors are coming across, and I'm pretty sure you will laugh sometimes because it's just the basics that we sometimes can't make right. Right, so scaffolding. Everyone knows this document, it's the Bible. If scaffolding company doesn't have this, I don't know what you're doing in scaffolding industry, in scaffolding business. We see a lot of people coming from UK, Australia, from all over the place, claiming that they have 20 years of experience, but they just can't base out scaffold right. So this is a document. We all inspectors following this document, and all scaffolding industry should be aware of it. Next one is obviously best practice guidelines for working at height. Scaffold is there, scaffold and edge protection is there to ensure that workers are protected. But scaffolders must ensure that they are protected when they're erecting scaffolding and edge protection. That's where this document is coming in place. These are the best practice guidelines on what we expect as a regulator from you guys when you're erecting plant. And Australia and New Zealand standard, temporary edge protection. This particular standard is concerned with temporary roof edge protection. If you're providing roof edge protection, whether it's scaffolding or proprietary system, this is the document that you should have in use. It explains, it lays out the diagrams, and we'll have a look at a few diagrams at the end of this presentation on how to go around different pitches and different edge protection. All right, so we'll go through a few installation failures that we see and start with basics. Sole boards, certain size, and it's a no-brainer to see something along these lines. Little blocks of wood. Where are the sole boards, where are the base plates, if no sole boards, if it's a level ground. Something along these lines, not centered on the edge, can collapse. We have earthquakes in Canterbury very often. This is just poor example of basing scaffolding. Rakers, very simple, one lift piece of scaffolding. Rakers don't work if they are not braced back. There's no point of bracing your scaffolding if it's not bracing anything. Did they jump? Okay, guardrails. Very often we come across internal guardrails not installed where they should have been installed. Most of the scaffolders know that external standards will have rails. However, where you have decks or different, weirdly shaped buildings, very often internal rails are missed. And they shouldn't have been missed. People can fall from that platform. There's no comments here. It's just two platforms not joined, and there's a gap, huge gap in there. Proximity to the work phase, we all know that it's 300. Scaffolding standard, which pretty much outlines all equipment, says 225. In New Zealand, we have 300. It's kind of that extra space for builders to be used. We do come across scaffolding scaffolding away from the building face up to 600, up to 1 meter, all sorts of dimensions. And it's certified scaffolders job. 400 and a bit. All right, fall prevention for scaffolders. Now, that's something critical that we do come across regularly, and for some reason, some scaffolders think that they're exempt from Health and Safety and Employment Act in respect of their own personal safety. Now, that guy crawling on the top of the second lift, I don't know what is he doing there. Why is he crawling? Why is he there without guardrails? So pretty much, if you open best practice guidelines, it will tell you, you can use EWPs, you can use progressive guardrail installation, advanced guardrail systems, tunneling method, fall arrest when you have enough distance to fall and actually employ fall arrest situation. So a lot of scaffolders use harnesses when it's 3 meters off the ground, 4 meters off the ground. Lanyard is 2 meters long normally. You will hit the ground before they actually it deploys. So scaffolders need to understand how to use fall arrest equipment. Another example, that's probably 6 meters in the air, and there is nothing there, and there were a couple of scaffolders crawling, all advanced, so crawling up and down and trying to build its scaffolding there. These two guys are hanging in the air as well. It's all Canterbury. It's all local photographs taken by our inspectors. These are dancing around the pole there, hanging in the air as well, and that's significant height. Should one of them fall, and it will be really, really serious risk of harm. Temporary roof. On the other side, from where this picture was taken, there's a 5-meter drop. Standing on the guardrails, trying to fix a temporary roof in place. This is just not acceptable. Edge protection. While his colleague installing edge protection at the bottom, he's standing right on the edge of that few meters drop. So I don't know what he's doing there. Maybe he's a supervisor, site supervisor at the time, but he shouldn't be there. Edge protection installation. So edge protection is being installed for someone to work on the roof safely, and while they're installing that protection for people who will come later and work on that roof, they're just about to fall off the edge of the roof. So these kind of situations we come across very often, and it's really hard to get you guys in this situation, to actually catch you in this situation, but we know that it happens a lot. So it's up to you to manage that. It's up to your companies to ensure that the risk is managed, that the controls are in place. Scaffolders, edge protection installers are not allowed to work at height without controls. All right, so edge protection is, let's have a look at some examples of edge protection. It was a rainy day. The guy is water blasting the roof, and the edge protection is double railed. That gap down the bottom is enough for him to slide under the mid rail and go down. Where's the third rail? Where are the gable ends? 45-degree pitch. How are the people supposed to work safely at height? And the fact that the platform is not at the right height, we'll look at it later. So it's just basic day in the life of the health and safety inspector in Canterbury, and we really like to come across compliance sites more often. Saying that, I have to admit that Canterbury improved significantly within the last couple of years in construction. It was a massive increase in compliance and actually best practice. Proprietary system, edge protection must be continuous. We see a lot of problems when in residential sector, gable ends provided by scaffolders, and then gutter ends provided by proprietary systems, and they don't meet each other in the corners. Because scaffolder provided two short tubes, sometimes they don't even follow the contour of the gable end, and the guys who end up working on the roof will end up being stopped by our inspectors because the edge protection is not compliant. So that's where communication is essential. Communication between the principal, between contractors, who is providing what, and how it's going to look like in real life. Some examples of mobile scaffolding and some appalling examples of mobile scaffolding. You would think that a little tower is really easy to build and build safely and ensure that all railing is in place. In fact, that's probably the worst piece of plant that we come across. Mobile scaffold are the biggest failure around. People tend to just build them and use them as a working platform, not as actual fall protection. I think my main point for tonight was to give you some guidance or to reinforce the requirements for edge protection, whether it's scaffolding or proprietary edge protection for certain pitches. We often come across questions and non-compliant edge protection purely because a lot of people providing this equipment are not aware or misinterpret the requirements. These are some generic diagrams. If you have any, any questions, any particular questions after I finish, just feel free to ask them. We'll do our best to provide clarity. But that's an example of scaffolding edge protection under 25 degrees. Okay, it can be provided with a platform up to 1 meter from the roof edge. Saying that, what we often fail to see on sites is this rail in the right position and this rail in the right position. This roof projection needs to go onto the external standard, and from there your top rail goes 900 to 1100, and then halfway down, which is 450 gap in between rails, and then another one down. A lot of time we see this rail in as a working platform protection, and none of these rails are installed. So you have to have this fall protection. You have to have these rails when you provide edge protection with scaffolding. Everything else is just your normal scaffold. It's just remembering that this distance is 1 meter, and these rails go up from roof projection onto the external standard. Right, 26 to 35 degrees, and 35 degrees is purely because AS 4994 covers roof pitches from 10 to 35 degrees. When you go over 35 degrees, the risk is much greater, so probably a number of controls should be employed on site. Not just the platform, probably sometimes a roof ladder may help, sometimes fall restraint situation may be used together with working platform. So for over 25 degrees, so 26 and up, we're looking at platform at the same level as the edge of the roof, or no more than 300 below the edge of the roof. 300 mil is your maximum distance in the case of 26 degrees and up. Everything else with that scaffold is exactly the same as you normally build those scaffolds. You've got platform, you've got 2 rails and the kickboard, or 3 rails. Okay, so if there is a risk of falling materials from this platform down, obviously there will be a kickboard there rather than a rail. Particular attention to this gap, 100 mil, should be minimized. Okay, proprietary systems, which are used often in residential and in commercial. So large commercial projects normally will have proprietary system, and residential single stories will have them. Now the trick with these ones is, well, there's no trick really. Up to 25 degrees, it's your normal 3-railed edge protection. Installed continuously around the roof. The same rules for railing. From the point where you would stand normally on the roof, you measure it up 900. So it's not from the gutter level generally, it's where you can stand on the edge of the roof, on the slope, and you go 900 to 1100 tops, and you measure down railing. Bottom rail, between 150 to 275 from the lower end of the roof. There's nothing complicated here. It's very easy to follow. So for those of you who are working with these proprietary systems, that's what you normally do.
That angle of the roof slope says it's between 10 and 35.
Yeah, it's between 10 and 35. What's not shown here, if you read this note, infill and top boards, if applicable, are not shown. So in the case of this 10 to 25, in the case of 25 and over there will be an infill panel here, which is shown here. Okay, so the only difference really for proprietary edge protection system on the roofs 26 and over, standard requires to have an infill panel to stop anything sliding off the roof and basically causing troubles down below. So everything else is the same, it's just an infill panel. The panel is non-structural, it's not necessarily needs to withstand the impact or anything like this. It standard specifies certain size of the steel mesh that can be used in those circumstances, but there may be other materials used for it. Okay, and infill panels, in case if they're used, they only required in certain spaces, not the whole perimeter of edge protection needs to be covered, so pretty much they are not required within 1.8 meter of external corner at the hip end. It's simple, it's not too hard to follow. This equipment is on the market, it's just a matter of installing it safely. That's pretty much me. The only other thing that I wanted to say is what Vadim said, what Steven and Rob said, it's all about communication. If you provide an equipment, please have a good, or if you're a client and you order scaffolding, edge protection, make sure that you know when it comes around. Or very often we come across sites where scaffold will be delivered this afternoon and guys already on the top plate, on the roof, they're already going ahead. If you're a house builder, make sure that you've got it all planned. Good planning is a success. So if you're a scaffolding company, make sure that your guys know what they're doing. Make sure that there is a robust quality assurance process in place. Make sure that they know how to work safely when they are on the roof, when they are on the edge of the building. Whatever they do, they need to ensure own safety and safety of those people around them. Okay? Just having a harness on, not attached to anything, or attached to the scaffolding when there is not enough clearance to actually deploy harness and use it appropriately, is not an appropriate control. Cool, that's me.
Thank you, Evgeny. Thanks very much.